Hey, what's up, photographer Ronix with it another tutorial, and this is going to be like a capture one tutorial, and I want to show you guys how to process your raw files in just capture one. So this tutorial going to be processing this raw image, and this is going to be more of how to process your raw images in just capture one, so that we can have blending skin tones and matching skin tones in this very image and have those beautiful and very vibrant colors in this very image. So first of all, you may be wondering why my capture one interface is looking the way it is right now. The reason for that is because I'm having capture 121. That's the version I'm using right now. And you may be wondering also why I have my interface looking like this. The reason for that is because I want them to be on the right hand side, because I feel like I'm comfortable when my adjustments are on the right hand side than the default, that is the left hand side. So what I did, I came right here to window, I came to workspace, and I came to migration. So when I clicked there, I had all my settings on this other side of the window. So I'm just going to increase that. Then usually for before adjusting or making any adjustments in capture one, I first of all put my exposure warning to see if at all I'm going to be going overboard with my maybe adjustments. So after I've done so, I usually come to the exposure panel right here, and first of all go down to the high dynamic range. So I'm going to first of all drop down my highlights. You can see when I pull my highlights down, you're going to notice that the exposure warning is going to go completely, so meaning we don't have any clipping in the highlights. Then I'm going to come to my whites too, and I'm going to knock them down like that, and also knock in my blacks. Then after I've done so, I'm just going to come to the shadows, and I'm just going to knock them up slightly. Then after doing so, I'm not going to add my contrast from the exposure panel. I prefer to going all the way down to my levels right here. So I'm going to pull my whites in like that. And when I pull them in, you're going to notice that the clipping sign is going to come back, but that is really unnoticeable, and we can ignore that anyway. So you're just going to pull in the blacks too like that in the image. So I think that looks okay to me. And you can as well come back and knock down the whites to get rid of that clipping, but I feel like we are good to go. So I'm just going to turn this off after I've ensured that everything is okay. Or I can simply come right up, and I'm going to knock down the saturation a little bit, because I feel like it is really overexposed like that, to 0.1. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast to 2. Then after, I prefer to add in a little bit of clarity to this very image before I do any color grading process or matching and blending the skin tones. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity into this image to around 10, and add a little bit of structure so that the image can really look sharp. So if at all I press Ctrl plus, you can see that my image is really sharp. So let me turn off the exposure warning, because it's kind of distracting right now. So you can see the image is really detailed and sharp. I hope you can see that. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to come to my dehaze panel. I'm going to increase or move it towards the right hand side. You can see when you turn it to the left what it does, and when you turn it to the right, it is going to add some little bit of contrast. So I think that is okay and looks beautiful. So after I have done so, I prefer to come all the way down to my color grading process. And before we can do any color grading on this very image, we have to first of all create a new blank layer like we do in Photoshop. That layer is going to help us work on this very image or on the skin tones of this very model, so that you can color grade them to look really nice and beautiful. So I'm just going to come right above here like that, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new layer, like by just simply clicking right here, and I'll have created a new adjustment layer. So I can rename that layer maybe skin tones like that, and I'm going to click enter, so you can see that is our layer right now. So I want to do adjustments on this very layer. We're going to come right all the way down to this area, or where we have our color editor option. So this is where it is. But before we can go to our color editor option, you're going to first of all select our mask tool. So when you select your mask tool, you're just going to draw or paint over the area of the skin like this. So when you start drawing, you're going to notice that it is going to start drawing the mask on the skin of the model like that. So just make sure you keep within the boundaries. And for this image, even if we go outside, because we don't have maybe reds or a red dress anywhere, so just come and draw or paint over the area or mask the skin area you want to affect. So just come to the outlines and just be careful with that. So don't mind if at all you accidentally paint on some areas. You can just press E on the keyboard to get your eraser tool, and you can just rub or delete away the mistake you may have done. So let's increase by using the brackets and just paint over after outlining the selection of the skin area we want to affect like that. So I think we are done painting over the skin area. So what we would love to do, we want to match these skin tones. Yeah, we just want to match them so that they can really look nice and really blending. Then we are going to come right here to the color editor tool, and we have three options right now. We have the basic, advanced, and skin tone. I hope you can see basic, advanced, and skin tone. So this is more like the Lightroom version. So if at all we go to the basic, we have the colors like we do have them in Lightroom, and advanced still the same, but we don't have this option in Camera Raw or Lightroom. Then we're going to get our color picker tool, so make sure you select it. Then we are going to zoom in and look for the area by clicking Ctrl plus, and you're just going to get the hand tool and move and look for the area we want the rest of the skin to look like. So I'm just going to sample like this area right here. So I think we want the whole image to look like this particular area. Maybe I could go for a different kind of look. So I think that is fine. Then after we have selected, we are just going to zoom out like that, and now make sure we activate view selected color range like that. So when you turn this on and off, you're going to notice that we are only targeting the skin tones in the image. So you're just going to turn it off, and now come under uniformity, and you're just going to move this slider like that, and it's just going to automatically match the skin tones the way they are meant to be like that. I hope you can see the difference it is making. And now we can now come to the saturation, and you can also increase it like that. And now we can now simply come now to the hues in this very image, and we're just going to now play around with these options. So you can see you can go for that kind of magenta kind of look for your image, or you can go towards the green side. So I feel like it is saturated. I'm just going to knock down the saturation like that, and let's see what the lightness has in offer for us. So I'm just going to leave the lightness right there. And now we can also intensify this side. So let's see what we have so far for this image by checking and seeing the before and after. So this was the image initially before, and this is where we are right now. Before, after, before, after. So you can now continue playing around with these sliders to see what works best for you. And we can as well come to the lightness and just continue playing around with it. So we can come right above here and now add some little bit of more of the blacks into the skin tones like that, and also add some little bit more of the contrast in this very image to around 2. So basically, if at all we go right to our skin tones and we turn this on and off, so that is the before, after, you can notice that we have blended almost the skin tones on the chest area with the ones on the face area of the model. So that is the before, and this is the after, before, after. So when you feel like you're really comfortable with what you have done with the maybe the color grading process of your raw file, you can just simply send your image to Photoshop. So let me show you guys. So when you get this pointer tool, and now right click. So when you right click, and you can now edit with, and now select Adobe Photoshop, and you can now start retouching your image in Photoshop. So basically this is how we do process our raw files in Capture One, and this is also how we also do the matching of the skin tones so that they can really have a uniform color in just Capture One. And you guys should really get Capture One because it is really a very nice and important tool to every photographer out there. But before we can sign out, we want to now come right here and eliminate the effect from the other areas of the model's face. And to do that, come and get your eraser tool. So this is the eraser tool, and you just want to paint out or remove the effect from the area. And when you select the eraser tool, you're going to notice that your tool is going to have a minus sign, meaning we want to delete the effect from particular areas. So just come and just start painting over the areas you don't want to affect, like the lipstick and maybe eyeshadow. You can also paint over the teeth of the model. So let's just paint like that, like that. So you're basically trying to eliminate the effect from these areas by using the eraser tool in Capture One. So if at all we don't want to affect the eyeshadow, we can now just simply paint over like that to eliminate the effect or get rid of it from those particular areas. I hope you're really learning something from this very specific tutorial. So let's do this. So when we turn this off, you can see now we have gotten back the amazing colors in the image, and it is really looking nice at the end of it all. So let's see, this is the before after. You can see that it is really looking nice, and I really am a fan of warm skin tones. And now what we want to do now, just export your image and you can start retouching it in Photoshop. So I think let's try and see if at all we can retouch this image in Photoshop. So let's come right click. So get our pointer tool, right click, and now edit with Photoshop 2020 if at all the file is not already there in my Photoshop. So let me wait and see if at all I don't have this file already open in my Photoshop, and if at all it is already open, we can now do the reverse and wait and see if at all the image is there in Photoshop. So the image is not there. So let's do some little bit of skin retouching on this very image so that we can see the end results of this very image. So let's start over by duplicating the background layer. So by hitting Ctrl or Command J twice, and we are going to deactivate the lower layer, the upper layer. Sorry, you're going to name this low, and you're going to name this high frequency. So we're going to select the low layer, and we're going to come right to filter. We're going to come to blur and come to Gaussian blur like that. So what we want to eliminate the colors from this very image. So come and now start moving your radius like that until you lose out on these textures in the image. So just move until you have completely lost out on the textures in the image like that. I'm just going to go to, let's use the radius of 10, because you have to blur out or remove the textures that you're going to be gaining back to in the high frequency layer. So come and click OK to approve that. And now come and select your high frequency layer, select it or activate it. Come to image and come to apply image. So you're going to subtract the textures from the low frequency layer. So come and select it. Blending mode is subtract, opacity 100, and scale is 2 offset 128, and make sure your preview is on. So when you do that, your image is going to be on a gray kind of layer, and you'll have the textures or outlines in this very kind of layer, because you have to ensure your preview is on. Select OK and come and change the blending mode from normal to linear light like that. And we are going to put these two in a group by hitting Ctrl G to put the two in a group. And you're going to select the high frequency layer, come and create a black and white layer like that, and now darken like that. I know I've already done 4 retouching tutorials that you may also be able to follow along. So get our mixer brush tool, make sure it is clean. I'm just rushing through all this. Wetness is 9%, load 75, mix 90, flow 100%, and sample all layers is not selected because we only want to work on the low frequency layer. So just come and select it, and now zoom into reasonably like that, and start painting over or in those particular areas like that. So basically we are trying to even out the skin tones using the mixer brush tool in Photoshop, and we're just blending them because they belong in the color or low frequency layer. This layer only contains the colors or the skin tones in the image, so that's why we're just using it to blend the targeted areas to harmonize them using the mixer brush tool. And when you're using a mixer brush tool, make sure you mix the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone. So turn this off to see a progress. So that's the before, after. I hope you guys really love this image. So come and now activate that, and now just continue like that. Just continue blending or evening out the skin tones in the image. So I'm just going to reduce that and now blend the shadows alone. Remember, we are blending the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone. And you can as well blend the area where the two are trying to make or have a transition or the meeting point, so that they can have a smooth blending. So basically we are using the mixer brush tool to blend the uneven skin tones in this model's face. So, and you know, the mixer brush tool is really a powerful tool that every photographer and retoucher should use, because even if you use dodge and burn for your retouching, you should learn to use the mixer brush tool, because it really gives you a step forward, or it saves a lot of time when you're trying to even out the darks and the shadows in the images you'll be retouching using dodging and burning. So you should really adopt this because it saves, or it is basically a time saver anyway. So let's just try to blend like that. So let's see what our progress by turning this off. So this is the before after. So you shouldn't mind if at all you may have missed out on particular areas, because we're going to be fixing that in a bit using our beautiful and our awesome lasso tool method. So turn this back on, and you can just double click right here to brighten up to see more information. And now select your low frequency layer and just come and start blending those particular areas. So I'm just having to blend everything. You know, when you start by using the mixer brush tool, you're going to soften most of the blemishes or skin imperfections using the mixer brush tool, and you're going to have less work to do when it is time to eliminate or remove the blemishes from your images. So depending on what you really love, you can go with that. So I don't have a particular procedure you should follow when you're doing the retouching onto your images. So I'm basically trying to even out the skin tones, and you're going to be able to see the results from this very image. Yeah, I was not meant to be doing a retouching tutorial, but I felt like I should retouch this image after color grading it in Capture One, so that you guys can see the results we are going to be able to achieve from this very tutorial. So let's turn this off and see if at all we are really doing an amazing job. So that's the before after. You can see most of the blemishes which were around those areas have been gotten rid of. So let's just try and blend this other area. Remember, skin retouching is not only about the face, but it is about the overall image. So these parts we are trying to blend are also part of the image. That's why we are trying to blend them too using the mixer brush tool, like that. So basically I think that is fine. So let's see a before and after so far. Zoom out and now see the before and after. So this is the image before after. I hope you are really loving this very image. Yeah, so we are going to come and you're going to delete the black and white layer, and you're going to come and get our lasso tool as usual, zoom into the image like that, and select our low frequency layer. Because we are still working with skin tones, come and make a selection on the skin of the model. So you should only select the skin tones like that, the way light is falling onto the model's face. So feathering is 25 pixels and alias is selected. Come to filter, blur, and come to Gaussian blur. So we have to zoom out because we want to get the right skin texture on this image. So we're just going to move this towards the right hand side until we feel like we have a nice skin texture for this image. So at around 26.1, I think that is okay. We are going to apply the effect onto the overall image by making or drawing shapes, using our lasso tool. So simply right click and hit Gaussian blur, and it is going to perfect those areas we may have missed out when we are trying to use our mixer brush tool to blend the skin tones. You can see this method is really nice because right now we are retaining the skin textures in the model's face. So I think it is really recommended to use this kind of retouching process on all your images. I think we are almost there. So right click on Gaussian blur. So another thing, guys, you should get calibrated monitors, because I remember I retouched this image a while back and I was not seeing the colors really well. So when I got a calibrated laptop, or a laptop that had a nice display, I was able to notice all the errors, all the mistakes I had in my image. So you should get that. A monitor is going to really save a lot, and you're going to be noticing all the mistakes in your images. Like I forgot to tell you guys, when you're using this method, make sure you kind of reduce on the effect on some areas, because it's going to basically flatten most areas. So if at all it is too much right there, come and click Shift Command F or Shift Control F and reduce on the effect or the opacity of the effect on a particular area. So I think we are done applying it right there. So right now what I want to do, I want to show you guys the before and after. So this is more of showing you guys the progress of this image. So that is the image before after. Before after, you can see what we have just done with the skin retouching process. So I want to clean up this very image and come and select the high frequency layer and get to our spot healing brush tool, or for whichever tool you would love to use. Let's use the clone stamp tool to be really precise with our blemish removal. Come and increase on the size. So how this works is basically you hold down the alternate key on the keyboard and click on a clean area, release the alternate key and paste the effect. So you're going to hold down alternate next to the blemish, copy from this area and release the alternate and paste by clicking. So basically that is how the clone stamp tool works when you're trying to remove blemishes. But when you're removing using frequency separation, make sure you're on your high frequency layer to clean up the image. And sampling should also be on the current layer, not on current and blur if at all yours is not showing any effect when you're trying to remove the blemishes from the image. So basically we're just trying to remove the blemishes from this very image. So come sample and just paint over the blemish to get rid of it, like that. Like that. I hope you can see and understand everything I'm trying to do right now. We are basically trying to clean up or remove most of the blemishes or maybe the whiteheads, but you have to take your time because blemish removal contributes over 90%, I should say, to your overall skin retouching process. So you have to take your time and remove those tiny blemishes or skin imperfections from your images in Photoshop. So I'm just going to clean up right there. So I think we are done removing most of the blemishes from this very image. So let's just clean up the lower part too, because like I told you guys before, skin retouching is done on the overall image and not only the face. I know some retouchers out there tend to forget these other vital areas, but remember, skin retouching, even those areas contain skin, so you shouldn't leave them out. So I'm just going to close this and you can see the before and the after, before, after. So what we want to do, we want to whiten the eyes and the teeth of a model. So we want to create a stamp visible layer by hitting Shift alternate Control E on the keyboard or Shift alternate Command E on the keyboard, and duplicate that by hitting Control J or Command J. And first of all, we want to get our spot healing brush tool. Make sure sample all layers is selected and now zoom into the eyes like that. And now first of all, remove this kind of spots from the eyes like that. So before you can do any whitening, so I think we are done doing so. What we are going to go, we are going now to go into camera raw to do some adjustments to the eyes and teeth. So come to filter, camera raw filter, and you're going to now use the adjustment brush tool. So this is the adjustment brush tool. So you can now zoom into the eyes like that and come to the temperature and now knock it down. So you shouldn't mind because you can adjust that later. Remember, since the eyes have some yellow kind of color, we have to move towards the opposite of yellow, that is the blue side. Then we're going to put the tint to around 61. Since we want them to pop, we're going to move the highlights to around 3. And since they have color in them, we're going to come down the saturation by leaving the rest at 0, and we are going to knock the saturation down to negative 65. And when we are done setting the adjustment brush tool, we're going to zoom in and hold down the space bar to get a precise zoom onto the eyes, and now start painting over the white area of the eye to whiten them like that. So there are various ways or methods to whiten eyes in Photoshop. You can as well come and look for the method that works best for you, but yeah, I think this works best for me. And yeah, not bragging, but I feel like I invented this myself, so I'm not bragging, guys. So let's just zoom into the teeth and also whiten them. So you have to be careful, because when you paint over the skin, it is going to remove color from that particular area. So come and just paint over the teeth. So you have to paint over one tooth at a time in order to whiten it like that. Like that. And now come this side and also paint like that. You're just basically trying to whiten the teeth of the model, and I guarantee that this is going to transform your image. So after doing so, I feel like the image is really too warm for my liking. I'm going to come to the basic panel right here and move all the way up to my temperature option, and I'm just going to knock down the temperature of this very image like that to around -6. And I can as well come to the vibrance and also knock it down too like that, to have this image to have those nice rich colors. And I'm just going to pump up my clarity like that. So I'm going to open this image back into Photoshop to show you guys the difference we have just done in Camera Raw. So this was the image before Camera Raw, and this is the after, before, after. And if at all you feel like you're okay with all you have done, you can now export your image. And in order to export your image so that it doesn't lose any color, you can simply come right here to File, Export, and come to Export As. And after you have done so, you can wait for a short while, and after, select Embed Color Profile. After doing so, come right here to Export, and your image is not going to change color when you post it or use another device in order to view it. So come and click Export. We are going to export our folder, and you can name this maybe lesson, and now hit Save. So make sure before you can export, the format should be JPEG or whichever format you want to export your image in. So come and hit Save, and your image is going to be exported into the folder you want it to be saved. So basically, this has been a tutorial of how to process your raw images in Capture One, and also how to edit your images in Photoshop after color grading them in Capture One. So basically, it has been an in-depth tutorial about skin retouching. And if at all you learned a new thing from this tutorial, don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to subscribe this channel if at all you are watching from this channel for the very first time. I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography, and thank you for watching.